So I'd like to finish with one last part of the story, which includes a few brief examples of how Abdu'l-Baha used his father's teachings in his own life. So, in the beginning of the 20th century, several years after Baha'u'llah had passed away, a revolution broke out, and the Ottoman Empire was overthrown. This was actually the beginnings of modern-day Turkey, and this had enormous implications for the state of the Middle East today, the fall of the Ottoman Empire. And as a result of this revolution, all of the prisoners of conscience of the Ottoman Empire were released, including Abdu'l-Baha, who had actually remained in the prison city for many years after his father had passed away. And now, at almost 70 years of age, having spent really his entire life in exile and prison with his father, Abdu'l-Baha, finally free, stepped out of the prison city and set out to bring his father's message. This message which the kings and rulers of the world had either ignored or had actively suppressed. He set out to bring this message to the people of the world directly. And so on his release from prison in the early years of the 20th century, Abdu'l-Baha set out on these historic travels which lasted for about 3 years. He came out from the Holy Land and travelled across Egypt and up into Europe. He travelled all over France and Germany and Italy and Switzerland and England and Scotland. He came to North America and travelled all over the US and Canada. And having never given a public talk in his life, having really spent his life in prison, Abdu'l-Baha moved around from town to town to town, giving hundreds and hundreds of public talks in all sorts of places, in churches, in synagogues, in universities, in public libraries, in private homes, speaking about the life and teachings of his father. And he spoke about all of these things. He spoke about Baha'u'llah's teachings on the oneness of humanity, the oneness of religion, the equality of men and women. He spoke about how, back in the Middle East, Baha'u'llah had taught people how to love one another, no matter how different they were. He spoke about Baha'u'llah's call to the world leaders, this call for universal peace. And he also spoke about the great difficulties that Baha'u'llah and the early Baha'is had faced, the periods of imprisonment down in the Black Pit and later on in the prison city, and the long years of exile in Baghdad and around the Ottoman Empire, and all the 40 years of persecution all the way back to the time of the Bab, back in Iran in 1844. He spoke about all of these things. And a great many other subjects too. In fact, I always say to my friends, if you want to know what the Bahá'í Faith is, read the talks of Abdu'l-Baha, because as he travelled through so many different countries and met so many different people, there was something in his talks for everybody. But if you read these talks, you'll find that in spite of the broad range of subjects that Abdu'l-Baha spoke about, spiritual subjects, scientific subjects, philosophical subjects, in spite of this broad range, you'll find that there is a common tone that really pervaded every word that Abdu'l-Baha said. Someone once remarked that if you were to summarize the teachings of Baha'u'llah, if you were to describe the whole Bahá'í Faith in just one word, then that word would have to be encouragement. And this was the tone, this was the quality that just coloured everything that Abdu'l-Baha said and did throughout his life, in prison, after prison, with friends, with enemies, wherever he went and whoever he met. He would focus his attention on whatever was good about people. And just by finding one good thing, one good quality about each person that he met, maybe this person is very thoughtful, maybe this person is very radiant and kind, maybe that person was very clever or enthusiastic or persevering, whatever it might be. Just by finding one good thing about each person that he met, he would draw it out of them, and the person would grow in multiple ways. It was as if Abdu'l-Baha, looking through the lens of his father's teachings, he could see the hidden potential in every human being. It was as if he saw every human being, regardless of where they were coming from or what their background was, just by virtue of being a human being. He saw them as if they were like a mine, full of gems and treasures of great value, hidden inside, just waiting to be discovered and brought out through a little bit of encouragement. For example, when Abdu'l-Baha met people of different faiths, different religions, he would never try to convert them to the Bahá'í religion, but he would actually seek to confirm them in the true, deep, loving message of their own religion and of all religion. And so on that note, I would like to bring our journey to a close with a song about the true loving message of all religion. And this is called Have You Heard? Have you heard of the troubles of Moses? So much light on the earth he did shed. Well, all the people, they rose up against him, and they rained down their darts on his head. And he came with a message of peace, love, and justice, and the promise of a great one to come. Baha'u'llah has come. I just ask you, my brother, to see me. And the whole human race as one. No, I don't ask you to believe me when I tell you Baha'u'llah has come. I just ask you, my sister, to see me. And the whole human race as one. Thank you very much. Thank you all so much. Thank you very much indeed. We hope that you have enjoyed this journey that we went on together throughout the evening. And you know, as I said at the beginning, if you had already heard this story, I hope that you enjoyed hearing it again. I hope it refreshed your sense of history. And for anybody who was perhaps hearing this story for the first time tonight, I wanted to say that, you know, even if you don't remember all the details, I really hope that you found something in the story that is meaningful to you in your own journey, wherever that leads. And I hope that you found something that you can take home with you, some food for thought, that you can think about. And really, most of all, I hope that you can take with you some little sense of hope and optimism about the future of the world. You know, I think that we live in a time when there's so much, there are so many chaotic, confusing, scrambling voices in the world, and often they're very loud. But I think, I hope that this story reminds us all that there are also things happening in the world that are constructive in nature and unifying in nature, and that are perhaps a little bit quieter in nature, but are perhaps more significant in the long term. So I wanted to just say thank you again on behalf of Jasmine and myself to Bruno and Maudie for having us. That there was a whole team who got together to organize this event, and I know that these kinds of things really do require a lot of collaborative effort just to put together a night like this. And I know that there are probably people on that team that I'm not even aware of who have helped in some way to make this night happen. So I'm not going to attempt to name everybody, just in case I miss anybody whose help I haven't been conscious of. But I wondered if we could just have a round of applause for the organising team who put this together.
Thank you.